Star 1. Tell me about yourself. Speaking style. Long, professional answer. Sure, my name is Anna, and I have around 8 years of experience working as a manual QC engineer. Over the years, I've primarily focused on testing both web and mobile applications across different domains, with the majority being financial and insurance-related platforms. My strengths include understanding business requirements quickly, designing comprehensive and clear test cases, performing functional and regression testing, API testing, exploratory testing, and communicating effectively with cross-functional teams. I'm very detail-oriented, and I always try to think from both the technical perspective and the end-user point of view to ensure the highest product quality. I've been working in agile environments for several years, so I'm very comfortable participating in sprint planning, grooming sessions, daily stand-ups, and collaborating closely with developers, BAs, product owners, and sometimes automation teams. At this stage of my career, I'm looking for an international company where I can learn from a diverse engineering culture, contribute my experience, and continue to grow professionally. Star 2. What is the difference between verification and validation? Speaking answer. Verification and validation are both essential parts of the quality assurance process, but they focus on different things. Verification is basically checking whether we are building the product correctly. That means reviewing requirements, documents, wireframes, user stories, and making sure everything is logically correct before development even starts. In my experience, good verification helps us catch misunderstandings early, which saves a lot of time. Validation, on the other hand, is making sure we built the right product. This happens after development, when QA executes test cases, performs functional tests, regression tests, and ensures that the application behaves as the business expects. So I usually explain it as: verification equals, are we building it right? Validation equals, are we building the right thing? Star 3. Walk me through your test case design process. Speaking answer. When I design test cases, I usually start by thoroughly reading the requirements, user stories, acceptance criteria, business rules, or mockups. I try to fully understand the user flow and the underlying business logic. Next, I break down the requirements into test scenarios. I identify the main flows, alternative flows, edge cases, and negative paths. Based on the complexity of the feature, I apply test design techniques such as equivalence partitioning, boundary value analysis, decision tables, or state transition if the feature has multiple states or conditions. Then I write detailed test cases with clear steps, expected results, and test data. I always try to make my test cases structured and easy to understand so that any tester, or even a developer, can reproduce them without confusion. After that, I usually have a quick review with another tester or the BA to make sure my coverage is complete. Finally, I add my test cases to the overall test suite so they can be reused in regression testing. Star 4. How do you ensure full test coverage? Speaking answer. For me, ensuring test coverage starts with really understanding the requirements. I go through the acceptance criteria, UI design, API documentation, everything that is available. After that, I map each requirement to at least one or more test cases, depending on complexity. I also use a requirement traceability matrix to confirm that every requirement is covered and nothing is missing. From there, I apply multiple techniques, like test scenario brainstorming, edge case analysis, and exploratory testing, to make sure I'm not only covering the happy path, but also alternative paths, boundary conditions, and negative scenarios. I also discuss with developers and BAs to confirm if there are hidden system behaviors or business rules that may not be clearly documented. And finally, I validate coverage by reviewing the test cases with teammates before execution. Star 5. How do you handle changing requirements? Speaking answer. Changing requirements are very common in Agile projects, so I've learned to remain flexible and calm. When a requirement changes, the first thing I do is understand exactly what the new expectation is and why the change is happening. Then I evaluate the impact on existing test cases, current sprint scope, regression scope, and potential risks. I also communicate with the team, usually the BA, product owner, and developers, to verify feasibility and timeline. I update test cases accordingly, and I may need to adjust my testing priorities to ensure that the most important or risky areas are validated first. My goal is always to keep the project on track while still protecting product quality. Star 6. Describe a critical bug you found. Speaking answer. One critical bug I remember was in a financial application where users could submit a payment request twice by tapping the button quickly. This caused duplicated transactions in the system, and in some cases, users were charged twice. To reproduce it, I performed rapid double-tap testing and also tried slow network simulation. I recorded a video and attached the logs, then documented actual versus expected behavior clearly. I immediately flagged the issue as high severity and high priority, and during triage, I explained the potential financial impact to the team. The developers confirmed it was caused by a missing API call lock and fixed it by disabling the button until the transaction response returned. The issue was caught before production, so the fix prevented financial loss and support complaints. This was a great example of why edge case and exploratory testing are so important. Star 7. What makes a good bug report? Speaking answer. In my experience, a good bug report should be clear, complete, and easy for the developer to understand without asking follow-up questions. I usually structure it with a clear and short title, preconditions, steps to reproduce, expected versus actual result, environment and build version, severity and priority, screenshots, logs, or screen recordings. I try to avoid long paragraphs and instead use structured bullet points. This makes it easier for developers to reproduce the issue quickly. My mindset is, if the developer can reproduce the bug on the first try, my bug report is good. Star 8. How do you work with developers when there's a disagreement? Speaking answer. I always try to stay calm and objective. I believe disagreements usually happen because each side sees the problem from a different angle. If a developer disagrees with a bug I raised, I provide clear evidence, video recordings, screenshots, API logs, or console logs. I explain the impact on the user and the business, not just the technical details. I also listen to their explanation, because sometimes what I think is a bug may actually be intended behavior or a missing requirement. If we still cannot agree, I escalate politely to the BA or product owner to confirm the correct expected behavior. For me, it's never about proving who's right. It's about delivering a stable product. Star 9. How do you test APIs? Speaking answer. I normally use Postman for API testing. First, I review the API documentation to understand the endpoints, request methods, payloads, and expected responses. When testing, I validate status codes, response body data, JSON schema, error handling, permission and authentication, edge cases like empty fields, invalid data, or missing parameters. I also test negative scenarios, such as unauthorized access or invalid tokens. For APIs that connect with front-end, I cross-verify by checking if the front-end behavior matches the API response. This helps detect integration issues early. Star 10. Why do you want to join an international company? Speaking answer. I want to work in an international environment because I feel it will challenge me and help me grow both technically and professionally. I'm excited about the opportunity to collaborate with engineers from different backgrounds and learn from global best practices in quality engineering. International companies often have more mature processes, clearer documentation, and a strong engineering culture, and I want to contribute to that environment. I also want to improve my English communication and work in a place where quality is truly valued.